I'm Robert Thibodeau of the Mayflower Bookshop, and we're at Cafe, and it's December 10th, and Mercury is trining Uranus today. So it's a very good day to accelerate your thinking and go to the next higher level of understanding. Forgive the little noises. We are at a restaurant that's still operating, and if you need something, try to catch the waitress as she goes by. I'm going to try to keep this to an hour, and there's a lot to talk about. There's so much to talk about that if you're interested, there's a 10, for those of you who are astrologers, I have 20 hours of work probably, minimum, into this 10-page article on the Astrology of 2014. And this is called Lecture Notes for Robert's Lecture. So these are my notes for the lecture, but I kind of spend a little time to make it so that it's easy to read if you're a new one to astrology. The big thing that is happening with astrology at the moment is that Mercury is trining Uranus today. And the things that most astrologers talk about is the fact that Uranus is squaring Pluto in the sky for 7 times, and we have a couple more to go. We just went through one. In the esoteric understanding of this, Uranus is the determination to be free. And we're talking about a certain amount of years that this has taken place. Uranus is a determination to be free and new inventive ideas and creativity. And Pluto is in hard aspect to this Uranus, or resisting this change or progress or impulse toward freedom or truth or transparency in the media, in the White House, or wherever, with your mate. There's a lot of people looking for some kind of change. And Uranus in Aries makes it very impulsive. For 7 years, we feel like we have to change ourselves and our job and our career, or those people around us, or they have to change with us to go, or we're trying to take it to the next higher level. Many people think that when a major planet like Uranus goes through Aries, that the world goes through huge changes. This is Everton's 0-point Aries. And indeed, Pluto has been squaring that point in Uranus conjuncted. Pluto and Uranus got together last when they were together in the 60s. Do you remember that? Student rebellion, racial riots, Vietnam protests, Vietnam Nixon getting thrown out. And there's a lot to be said that I'm about to say about this, Uranus, Pluto, including the attempt to speak freely at the same time that there's a plutocracy or plutocratic underworld. Pluto is plutocracy. Plutocrats rule by money, power, and authority. When they're really smart, there's a deep wisdom of compassion. Now, in my book, Astrological Aspects, the Art, I go into a lot of detail about reimagining Chiron as Charon, the boatman to the underworld, and that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the 3 outer planets that we have in our astrology chart that cause huge changes for better or worse in our lives. That when you look at your personal chart, when you see Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus aspected to your Sun, Moon, ascending sign, or any other vital point, either you'll progress to the next level, or you'll be thrown back into a tizzy with difficult or bad karma. I think there's somebody in the audience that was here when I was predicting about a year ahead of time that the mayor of Detroit could get indicted and possibly kicked out. And so I use these outer planets for these kind of predictions, or for Super Bowl games so I can get free advertising. Can't afford the ads during the game. But you can predict the game. And I had some certain amount of success with it. Nobody's always accurate with predictions because there's freedom. Within each individual, we're free to change the course of the future. It's a God-given right that we're free. It's also a God-given right that we'll learn, that there'll be karma for our mistakes, that your mother may forgive you, but karma won't. Your lover may forgive you, but karma won't. And that unless one does accelerated virtuous merit to pay the debt, because good karma is like money, then one has trials and tribulations like Job in the Old Testament. A fine story that escaped from ancient Greek, Egyptian times of revealing initiation stories. So here we are in this year of Uranus squaring Pluto, and in the summertime, these planets are going to be exactly aligned with the United States sun. This is the heart and marrow of what is happening this year, is that the United States of America on July 4th has this 13-degree, 1776, a 13-degree sun sign that was plotted out by the astrologers, Ben Franklin and many others, to pick that time for their astrological time of birth, and it was 13 Cancer conjunct the dog star that was very famous, Sirius, the dog star of Egypt. Now, coming up in April, we're going to have Uranus and Pluto. Pluto will be at 13 Capricorn opposing this. Uranus will be at 13 Aries squaring it. Jupiter will be at 13 Cancer conjuncting it. And the rascal Mars will be at 13 Libra, triggering off these outer planets. When Mars gets into configuration, many of you are astrologers, you may know this, but many astrologers around the world right now are predicting doom and gloom. And when you go onto the internet, a dangerous place to sell your mode of intellect, but can be useful if you know how to maneuver the waters and get in and out as fast as possible. This is not a date. And that you have, when you find out what other astrologers are saying, many people are predicting once again the end of the world, and that there could be a nuclear accident or war. Well, there already are nuclear accidents. And Fukushima, I can't say that right without sounding really weird. Fukushima. I don't know how to say that. But the idea is that Pluto is plutonium, Neptune is neptunium, and Uranus is uranium. Approaching this aspect, there's huge uranium leaks that you don't hear about in Australia just the last few days. I've been predicting, you may be watching, but you may have to do your homework, increased volcanic activity, of which a volcano in Peru went off 8 times in the last couple of days, and many other volcanoes have been going off. Little towns we've never heard of have to get deserted, but the point that I'm making is that if you look back in history, when Pluto was at this position before, in the 1600s, there was about 200 years of cooler weather, and we look at the volcano that went off in Washington State back a number of years ago. That was a very cold summer. And so if there's the way that the Earth purifies itself, for those of you who aren't in acrobatics and haven't read George U.S.A. about this, but George U.S.A. was the first one that I know of to come up with the fact that the Earth purifies itself of radioactivity. There's a book called Atomic Energy. It's very expensive to find. That the Earth has volcano activity, and then the volcanic ash subtly goes all around the sphere of the Earth and collects pollution, especially radioactivity, and then it drops again. Now, when this happened in Washington, the pollution was dropping. Where does it drop? On nuclear centers. So the Pentagons were going crazy at the time. You know, what was that? 15 years ago or 20 years ago that happened? Something like that. And so then they found out that the radioactivity goes really yin and goes real high, and then starts getting yang and contracting and coming back down, and looks for yin places like radioactive centers. And so it was falling near Colorado and another place, and they were thinking it was a Russian spy thing. And they found out. So this is the terrible truth: is that the Earth is alive. I mean, you know that a lot of you know that while we're sitting here, the Earth could have risen 120 feet and gone down 60 feet. But it happens at such a mass level, we don't feel it. Some of you may know that the Earth is spinning at a tremendous rate eastward, and the Earth is going around the sun at a tremendous rate. Hang on. And the sun, because that's what happens when you start thinking of this. You start getting to be really weird. Pretty soon you'll be like Hawking in a wheelchair. And then the sun is going around another center. It's like in the galactic center, hundreds of thousands of solar systems are going around. And no wonder we want to take speed or some coffee to get speeded up to accelerate ourselves to catch up with what's going on. So to make a long story short, there's a secret. There's a secret to the secret of secrets. And it's called gravity. The point is that volcanoes clean the air, and there are other things going on that I have to mention. I'm sorry, they aren't very disturbing. But if you have an esoteric spiritual point of view, they're not disturbing at all. Rudolf Steiner said that it's not bad that the Earth is dying prematurely, but when it was supposed to. The problem is that some of us aren't really ready to cross the threshold into the spiritual worlds. and that we'll enter the spiritual worlds lame and crippled in mind, and much worse off than we are now. So it's good to meditate, good to do your yoga, and love and truth can not only set you free, the truth sets you free, but love is a great protector. Love is also a painkiller. So if you haven't been in love lately, I strongly advise it. It's much better than medications, and if guys or girls are in trouble, just try plants. They won't lie to you, and they'll die immediately on you. They won't take 10 years to make you suffer. Okay, back to astrology. Okay, you don't know anything about that, do you?
I don't.
I don't need it. I don't mind things. Okay, so the volcanoes, I think, here's some other disturbing facts. We're at the height of solar flare activity, but it's the lowest ebb of solar flares they've ever seen. People who are in the know are deeply disturbed. We're at the height of solar activity, solar flares and sunspots, but there aren't any. And some very important researchers, the guy who came up with the galactic center idea, have pointed out that if this was to continue to happen, we could enter a mini ice age. A reversal. Now think about the Earth. If you're the Earth and it's getting way too hot, what would you do? Think if you're the sun and that you love everybody that's hanging out in your solar system. Except for a few guys down here. I did not say Dick Cheney. It's nothing to do with him. I'm still hoping that he'll discover Christianity.
That's fine.
That's what Governor Ferris said when Governor Ferris from Ferris State College, he lost the election. No, he won. He retired. Governor Ferris won again and again, and he retired as governor of Michigan, the most beloved governor. And then a bad governor came in and he said, I don't like you, I'm going to come out of retirement and kick you out because you're a bad governor. And he came back and won, and everybody voted for him. And at his acceptance speech, he said, and I still think that if only Christians could discover Christianity, great things could still happen. Now we could say this about other religions too, so I'm not picking on any. I thought I'd pick on the one that I grew up with. But unless we discover compassion and love for everybody, we're all in trouble. So that's what a fireman from Detroit recently told me at the Mary McGuire concert out in Keego Harbor, that Detroit can't be saved until we respect each other and love each other, and he has no hope for salvation for Detroit until then. So I'm telling you that the solar spot activity has been happening. Now here's another problem. The magnetic field of the Earth. You can go check these things out, ladies and gentlemen. They're scientific. We pay taxes, and you can go check this out. With the government, they have these places you can go, but although they don't always tell the truth, they wait to tell you certain things. But the magnetic field of the Earth has been weakening. So cosmic energies are coming in much stronger. The star energy, and all kinds of weird energies that we don't even know what they all are. Now, again, from an esoteric point of view, your mom and dad have to at some point let you go and make your own mistakes. And so from a spiritual point of view, what's happening is that each of us must awaken our own heart and our soul and our mind to make things happen that would benefit our own garden and the people around us. And when we can't help those people around us, which many of us have tried to help people around us, and you can't help them, they'll bite you. Or whatever. They don't want you anymore to try to help them. And so then you have to work on yourself to change the world around you. And Gandhi's idea was to change yourself to change the world around you. But I'm saying that once you get to a certain point of success and happiness yourself, then it can have this overspill activity, not a trickle-down activity, but a more co-creative activity. So with the world around you. And I think that you can be a benefit to the world around you if you have an ability to learn still. I want to point out, it's not very esoteric, but it's a very crucially important comment by Plato. We don't have Plato's teachings very much in the real form because they got lost, and then the Islamic stream or Arab stream picked it up and translated it into Arabic, and then it came back into English and Greek. It got really lost, And so, but I'm telling you that Plato said this. He said Plato does not give you any New Age ideas, and he doesn't say, like Buddha, he doesn't say he promises you're going to get saved. And maybe that's not what it's about. Maybe there are certain elements of our life we can't save, and there's other parts of us that are already saved, and will in time realize this certain sense of a raising of consciousness, or a resurrection, you might say. Plato said this: if you're willing to learn, anything could happen. And this is a big one, because when you're willing to learn, about who you are, who they are. Whenever something goes wrong and you're having an argument, that you don't fight and you just sit back and you're willing to learn that it's not working, whatever you're doing is not working, and even if you're right, impotent perception. People love hearing that. And so, but if you can remember it, it will keep you in check. So then you have that sense of emptiness or openness to learn. And if you're willing to learn, anything can happen. So we're in a situation where the sunspots aren't happening, and we have the idea that the Earth is losing its magnetism. The North Pole is melting and becoming warm at the top, while the bottom is getting full of ice and colder than ever, breaking records. And the Earth has a fat butt now. We're bottom heavy. Where does this start? Know thyself, and thou shalt come to know the whole world. That's what they say, right? That's what they thought. So, let's go into it. April is the crucial time. When April comes and we have this grand cross in cardinal signs, now obviously, if Pluto's in Capricorn and you're a Pluto person, if you're like a Capricorn, a Cancer, a Libra, an Aries, you're probably going through huge changes, or about to, or just did. Death and rebirth, people die, the car thing shifts. You can turn your seat around, anybody you want to see better. Pluto is a ruthless selflessness and compassion for the world that can almost sink your boat. Or it's a huge egotism and dictatorship. An impulse toward controlling and undermining anybody who doesn't serve your purpose. And Pluto is plutocrats, people who rule by money, power, and authority, and not all of them are wise. The ones with compassion are very wise. That if you're wise and you have compassion, then you can find the Holy Grail. The myth of the Grail was that if you could unite the sword with the cup, and the sword was cosmic spiritual intelligence with the cup of universal responsibility and compassion and love. Whoever can unite the sword with the cup rules the world, or their world. And the myth is that Klingsor, head of the Klingons, Klingsor is the false Grail captain who's trying to steal. He's already stolen the sword of knowledge, that the bad guys have the sword of knowledge, you get it? And that the good guys have the cup, but they're good for nothing. They have compassion and love. They feel for their fellow man and woman, but impotent to do anything. I say that because guys hate that word. And so, unless they've had too many babies. And then, but anyway, so it forces you to think maybe you should do something and not be impotent. So the idea is that whoever can bring the sword and the cup together. In the Kabbalah, the higher triad is like the handle that goes into the Tipra heart sword. So the higher concept, the higher triad of Abba, Buddha, Manas, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I go into my book in this, comes into the heart, and that the heart is the wisdom of the body, that the heart forms a chalice to hold the cosmic wisdom so that you can ignite, be self-igniting, and become a Jedi Knight, that one can literally step into their shining knighthood and serve the Grail that nourishes us all. The myth of the Grail is that the king is wounded, the land is becoming a wasteland, and we're all looking for the Grail that would nourish us all and heal the king and the land. So when it comes to the Grand Cross, crosses are a time where people want to manifest or they're destroyed trying. Pluto in Capricorn is giving a very hard time, but it's bringing many people to power. Many Capricorns are having a hard time, and these other cardinal signs, but they're finding new ways of power and a new eternal youthfulness that's arising within them. When you have Pluto is the most negative planet you could possibly find for chaos and being sucked into the underworld, but it's also the most beautiful planet you can find for redeeming the dark feminine and rediscovering Lilith and discovering how to heal yourself and thus your friends through compassion and selflessness. And Uranus is being electrified by noise and radio and the internet and loud music. And everywhere you go, there's huge noise. You go to a good bar for hearing music, and there's so much noise of people talking that it can hurt your ears. You cannot drink at a bar and have a hangover from, used to be the smoke too, but you can have a hangover from the noise in the body. And so it's very critical to balance out. In my book I go into this, but forgive me for slipping into esotericism, but one part of us is connected to everything that moves in the whole universe, and another part of us is total stillness. And there's a mind, the true mind arises between the unmoving and the moving, like in I Ching, lines. The unmoving and the moving. So the unmoving is that stillness that comes through cosmic love, spiritual love, and suffering, and through listening, an art of listening with the heart to the deepest self. And the mind arises between movement and non-moving. That's the true mind, rather than the mind that's sense-bound thinking and reacting to everything and has preconceived programs in it. These are other problems of spiritual problems, but the problems we're facing now is that astrology, the wheels that keep turning, the big wheel just keeps on turning, that kind of thing. The wheels in the sky keep turning, and in all of our lives, it's like, okay, it's time up, And are you wearing your Tibetan thing, or are you wearing your rosary? Catholic Church had this, if you wore the rosary or the scalpel, I don't know how that, it cuts into you somewhere. With it on, you wouldn't go to hell, We're already in hell, ladies and gentlemen, so we won't have that to worry about. And some of us have figured out to put our foot on a step, the foot on the golden path to heaven. And heaven can be created here on earth, and that's why Jesus said, I came to bring heaven on earth. Or on earth as it is above. As above, so below. On earth as it is in heaven. This was sigils of the ancient mystery schools of ancient Egypt. When Uranus is in Aries, it stimulates the Aries to make big changes in themselves. You got to be careful of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but some are doing it. And you have Uranus trining Leo, so Leo can benefit at this time, but Saturn's in Scorpio, squaring Leo and opposing Taurus, and squaring Aquarius. So the fixed signs of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio have to move slow and sure. And yes, they could be coming to slow, gradual, deep power, because Pluto's in Scorpio. Scorpio's ruled by Pluto. I'm sorry, Saturn is, what am I saying? Saturn is in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. Scorpio's ruled by Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. Saturn's in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. This is called mutual reception. I mentioned it other times when there's mutual reception. So if you get in trouble with your taxes or other people or loans, because Pluto's in, you can go to Pluto in your chart to figure out a way out of it. Or if you get into Pluto trouble and you're going to prison, or you're in deep trouble with the IRS or the law, or you're going to kill yourself because your lover left you and you over-identify with forms outside of yourself. Mistake, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Then you could go to Saturn, of spiritual discipline, yoga, and meditation. When you have Uranus in Aries, this wants huge changes quick, or there'll be earthquakes, volcanoes, lightning, huge accidents, but also really great for, finally, by the time Uranus gets through Aries, innovations of the automobile. They'll finally figure out how to make a good automobile. And as I told Henry Ford, back in the early 80s, I don't even remember when, way back, in doing a bunch of charts and turning him on to guys with solar packs on the top of the cars that were friends of mine at U.S.A. research. They knew it all. But he said that at the time. I said, you should make a car that runs 100 miles a gallon and lasts 30 years. He said he could do it, but it would cost the price of a house. There was battery problems. I think this is going to get all worked through coming up. This is all going to get worked through. Before Uranus leaves Aries, there'll be a brand new car, but also probably a new flying vehicle. For a long time I've considered that the United States has the flying saucers, and that God does not make other human beings anywhere else in the universe, and that there's never going to be another human being like this anywhere. Why would God, for God's sake, make another human being somewhere? He'd have to be out of his mind. Okay, we got that. Unless all of a sudden we were successful and they wanted to, like, oh yeah, these guys know how to bring peace in the world. Just spread them around the universe. So, okay, I think you got that. So then you have like Jupiter I want to say a couple things that are very critical. Uranus Pluto last conjuncted in the 60s, bringing Vietnam protests, political protests. The hippies, have you heard my song, Bring the Hippies Back, on YouTube? That addresses that problem in a humorous way. But I wanted to tell you about other times. Uranus squares Pluto 7 times from June 2012 to March 2015. The next two are April and December. This April, and then December 2014. What just happened, ladies and gentlemen, is the Uranus square Pluto. I see the 7 hits as physical, etheric, astral, or physical, emotional, mental. And then the ego wakes up. And then the 5th hit that we just went through has been the spiritual thinking is waking up. People are really getting smarter, whether we know it or not. Some of us are getting smarter and we don't even know it ourselves. The next one in April and then December will be Buddha. That would be compassion. There could very well be a major earth event where many people die, whether that's a huge earthquake, God forbid, a terrorist, atomic, nuclear, whatever, dirty bomb. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. We should pray that those things don't happen. Once something happens, we can do nothing about it. This is a metaphysical law of old theosophy. Once something happens, you can't do anything about it. It had to happen and you had to grow from it and learn from it. But before it happens, we can do something about it. How we live our life is the vote for what happens in the future. So when you think about the 6th hit of Uranus square Pluto in April, the Buddhic principle of compassion is awoken. And it doesn't seem like people come to higher love. They go on vacation or buy a new outfit or a new car. Unless something happens that forces us to have compassion for other people. And it's a terrible truth that the whole place goes down on the East Coast and all these people are sharing their water, but not their gun. It's a very peculiar situation. And the cell phones don't work. So I see that this could be a major dangerous time. And I don't want to get lost in it, but within the last year or two, England announced they have a new nuclear submarine that can stay underwater for all year and hit nuclear bombs anywhere in the world. And China announced they have a whole new fleet of ships and submarines, and they're now in competition with us. And we laugh at them because we have whole new secret weapons we're not even telling them about. And it was in the 80s and early 90s that even Wall Street Journal was talking about satellite sons holding laser guns and being able to see the date of a dime from a satellite and do an implosion bomb into a car. Who knows what they got? I don't want to know what they have. Conspiracy theories are useless. Either you're right and you'll soon be dead, or you're wasting all of our time and especially distracting yourself from a spiritual practice, yoga, a garden, redeeming your childhood and your parents after you do something with yourself. So we have this situation of this grand cross where Jupiter is going to conjunct the United States Sun. Now normally, like last times, like Jupiter goes into Cancer, and we're in Cancer, and I predicted real estate prices would go up. Unlike a few other astrologers, I won't mention them. I got lucky, because sometimes that guy is smarter than me. But the stock market's been going up for the most part and holding its own. And I expect some dips. Right now Jupiter's trining Saturn, and it should continue to hold and rise. The question is what is going to happen when and the United States is ready for crisis. Somebody told me that the new $100 bill, they can just fly a quick jet over your house and know how much money you have. And that even somebody else said it has a small amount of radioactive material. I don't know if that's true, but I heard that the fire alarms do. I mean, this is a dangerous, toxic world unless you're very careful. So when Jupiter conjuncts the Sun of the United States, that could be very powerful for us becoming a new leader again if we have a higher morality and ethics. Pluto opposing it, which usually means a catastrophic event that forces us to have ecological rules and laws, of which some parts of England and Europe have been just practicing the beginning of. You go into a subway in London and they have a thing to put your gum in. And they don't throw trash in the streets like they do here, stuff like that. And composting. So Jupiter's going to be on the sun, and this could be one of the most advantageous times to find your true calling, your true self, the right job, the right home. I know people that are thinking there's going to be a huge inflation in a number of spots in the world, so they're buying extra homes to figure out which ones to sell later. There could be some pretty steep inflation. I would think with Pluto opposing, there'd be, in certain areas, deep deflation and depression. If the catastrophe hits where you are, your house isn't going to be worth a lot. Ask certain neighborhoods of New Orleans. And but there are other areas that will be doing well. So we have Mars is the wild card, and it's in Libra. And I wanted to mention that the Atmic part happens in December. So this December, we have really nutty aspects right on Christmas. We have Mars opposing Uranus. So at Christmas and New Year's Day and into January, we have the beginning. You'll get a really good glimpse of what is about to happen. And this is going to be a terrible Christmas to travel in. If you were traveling, I'd go early. If you're going somewhere, be prepared to stay there. Bring a really good book from the Mayflower Bookshop that you won't be able to understand right away, so it will last you for a long visit at the airport. And this is going to be a wild time. The Christmas after this is another difficult aspect, but the most crucial time is coming up at Christmas, New Year's into New Year's, and then in April. Now, I have this available, this 10-sheet thing, for some nominal fee that Susan will tell you about in the back if you're interested, which goes into detail. The last time Pluto was in mid-Capricorn, where it's heading now, were the years leading up to the American Revolutionary War. This is the last time that Pluto was here. In 1768, the British were oppressing and suppressing American colonists. The British were insisting on world domination and international money-making ventures. Now, worldwide, the working class, remember John Lennon, the working class hero song? Just go listen to that. You can go to the top, but you have to be ready to kill. And we're going to kill it. Just go to any hockey game and watch the hot blood hit the cold ice and watch the barbarians. You see the kind of mentality of the human beings turning into animals. Other human beings are on computers, running the world from computers in a desk in New York. They're becoming machines. And so Rudolf Steiner's prediction that some of us will become animals and others machines, while the angel is struggling within to awaken from the heart of wisdom, compassion. So this working class citizen is having more and more diminished opportunity and free decision making in the global corporate takeover of the world. I was thinking about it today. I don't want to be too hard on the global corporations. Once I was at J.P. McCarthy and even Howard Stern, so saying that I trusted the American businessmen that they wouldn't kill their customer. I was wrong, okay? They're killing a bunch of their customers. We don't really need them now. No, but actually some people are going to wake up and they're not going to kill the customer, and I'm hoping that still happens. And so Frank Zappa said, don't quit, join everything. We need good people in the army, and we need good people running the world in so you shouldn't really quit, Frank Zappa thought, you should join everything. Right. So I'm saying a lot right here. If you're not spiritually enlightened, do not join anything, please, and go do your homework. Okay, let's get real. You don't need anybody to throw their body over barbed wire. In 1776, there was a Declaration of Independence. All this in Pluto and Capricorn. There's a deeper esotericism of okay, I talked about that. Created the first American flag, having 13 stripes, alternately red and white, and 13 stars. And they still have the stripes, 13. But we've added states, right? But originally, 13 stars and stripes. And they did this on purpose, by the way. The phoenix bird, which is part of the 500-year cycle, which is twice Pluto. Pluto goes around 240, 250 years, and one's masculine and one's kind of feminine in its outburst and receptivity. And so this is a phoenix cycle. And Ben Franklin wanted the phoenix bird to be the symbol of America. And they tried to settle on the turkey. And then they said no, they said that's too domestic. The phoenix bird. So the original bird was the phoenix bird that dies in the fire of its own desire and is resurrected with the morning dew of the wisdom from the last age. And or your past. And Pluto represents this, not only the descent of the goddess and the descent of the hero. Krishna says, I come only at the darkest times. Or Jesus the Christ comes at the dark times. That all the superheroes like Ulysses, Prometheus, they come to Earth. Our higher self descends to the Earth, and the heart spells Earth. The higher self descends to the Earth, and that is that you come into yourself and incarnate your whole self. And you have to do some kind of work or meditation or listening with your heart. The word heart has the word hear and ear and spells the word earth. And so this is what I go into in my book as a spiritual practice. It's a very important thing to do. From the intellect alone, you cannot save the world or yourself. Intellect alone is a booby prize. The heart alone is a fool, a victim of love. All the trees love, they get chopped down. All the flowers love, they get picked. Okay, we need the head and the heart to work together. And this wisdom and compassion love is the two wings of the true soul. So these 13 stars and stripes, and there's other, like in the form of the ego that it turned into, there's 13 arrows and there's 13 steps up the curve. There's a whole bunch of 13s. And there's a reason for this, that it's not a conspiracy. The original spiritual everybody's, whether they're Masons or Templars or whoever, they create spiritual impulses and teachings, and then somebody goes, you know, there's a lot of money in that. I think there's money in crystals and this New Age thing. And Bugsy, I think we should get into it. You know what I mean? We should get into the money thing, and if Thibodeau's in the way, get rid of him. Burn his bookstore down. Or whatever. This is what they do. So this is what they've always done. So we have to convert our enemy. Love your enemies, Buddha and Jesus said. Love your enemies. Your friends, they already like you, and they're already going to give you a hard time. You may not be growing from it. As Carl Jung said, we sleep in each other's unconscious. The problem and the tragedy of modern friendship and love is that we sleep in each other's unconscious and we put up with their shit. That would be CHIT, consciousness. We put up with their stage of consciousness. Sat Chit Ananda. When the Ananda, the eternal silence, gets together with when the Sat of eternalism and silence gets together with the Ananda of ever-changing opportunity for bliss and virtue, shit happens. Consciousness arises between the stillness and the movement. That would be the Hindu way of saying it. So this 13, Christ had 12 apostles, Christ being the 13th, or was the Judas the 13th, the traitor? King Arthur and the 12 knights, one of them was the 13th, was a traitor. Argonauts, Jason and the Argonauts. 12, one of them was Ulysses, there's 12 fellows. This goes on. Hercules has 12 labors to prove himself, to get initiated. He has to come to release Prometheus from the rock, one of them, the stone. Our firebrand is tied to materialism and sense-bound thinking. Okay, I promise not to go to spiritual stuff. Okay, let's go. So then we have Jason, we mentioned him, the 12 signs of the zodiac, and the sun is the 13th. Jacques de Molay, the head of the Templars, on the 13th, Friday the 13th, was arrested and burned. I just visited that place in Paris recently, where the king could watch him across the river. And I was in London too, but Jacques de Molay. The number 13 represents the spiritual self, the higher self, the holy within the sacred, the sacred, the sacred, the heart. The number 13 represents the higher self, the hero, according to Joseph Campbell, the Hermes, the true mind, the Dionysius, the Buddha Manas, the Mani, the Krishna. The reason I bring up 13 is that all the planets are exactly at 13. And Jupiter, which is the Santa Claus of the zodiac. Everybody waits for Jupiter. In fact, I once offered any of my planets for their Jupiter. We were doing a psychic operation. Times were slow at the Mayflower. We were doing transference of planets. those charts. No, that bad joke. Bad joke. Bad joke. We're not doing those operations. But the idea is that this Grand Cross, all four of them, the Sun is at 13 of the United States, Jupiter's at 13 on that Sun, Pluto's at 13 in Capricorn, Aries is at 13 in Aries, and Mars flirts back and forth for 8 months at 13 degrees, and Mars is in Libra. Mars is ruled by Aries. They say it's in its detriment, right? It's in the opposite. There's another word too, detriment, and it's in fall. It's not quite its fall. There's another thing, but it's hindered, and that Mars has trouble being its usual aggressive self. And when it is aggressive, it's freaked out and makes mistakes. And so Mars is going to be a troublemaker in Libra, or is it? All the planets have a higher octave. This cross is an attempt to manifest spiritual intelligence on the planet, and there are very difficult forces. I won't say they're intelligence because I do not believe in a devil. I believe in ignorance and delusion of children of God. Now some people will debate me, but this is my turn to talk. And I think that we're all connected, and I think if you have a deep enough experience, or you have a near-death experience, you'll know this. You just have to die and you'll come to know it really quick. But then it's too late to do anything. And you can only make karma while you're here. Once you die, you can't make new karma and good karma and earn virtue, which is better than money in a lot of places. I'm proof of this. So the number 13 is critical, and it represents the highest forces of an attempt to manifest spirituality on the planet, at the same time that it also represents kind of a shadow of betrayal, accident, mishap, lies, swindles, death of major prominent people, which is already beginning. Swindles, theft, chaos, disorder, war, or a calling to a higher intention that is forced upon us. This is also a crossroads where many of us have to make life decisions that will affect us all of our lives. Wherever you have planets or houses with these cardinal degrees in the center, you'll be affected by new challenges and opportunities. Many people in this room have already been affected in their job, their calling, their career, or their relationships. And there are many trials and tribulations, but one could be endowed at this time, entitled or gifted, if one is purified to receive these higher forces. The number 13 is really good or really bad luck, and it's falling on the United States. This fateful day of October 13th, 1307, the Templars were all arrested and tortured to confess. On that day, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Mercury were at 13 degrees Scorpio, with the North Node 13 degrees Libra, South Node 13 degrees Aries. Is this the Templars coming back? Spiritual Grail seekers? I doubt it. I mean, who would want to be a Templar? I think what's really coming back is a new sense of loving the whole earth and building sacred centers. The Mayflower has been transforming into a more sacred center. If you haven't been there recently, Om is transforming. We're transforming our inner and outer self into a more sacred center to be receptive to higher callings and fellows that are involved. Okay, so I also wanted to say this. Anybody who has degrees around this will be affected. In the Lansing chart of Lansing, Michigan, that would affect Michigan, their Mercury-Uranus is at 13 Aries. With Uranus there, Michigan may quickly become one of the greatest places to live. There might be a temporal, difficult situation that occurs that forces us to change some of our thinking, but with Uranus coming to hit the Mercury-Uranus, and then the Venus, Michigan may be awakening. Now remember, the Dalai Lama said that Michigan would be saved, and parts of the Midwest would be saved from some of the horrific changes that were about to take place, because when they came through Michigan in the Midwest and chopped down all of the trees to sell cedar to Lebanon, they planted oak trees and made good karma. So it's still not late, folks, to plant trees. But a lot of the oaks that are here, Royal Oak, Ann Arbor, are because of these people who thought of this, planting oaks. And so the Dalai Lama, originally when I first met him, when he first came to the United States and hung out with him a little bit, he thought that we could be saved from some of the worst things that were about to happen. We'll see. The state of Michigan has the moon at around 14 Libra, which is opposing this Mercury, Uranus, and Aries. 13, 14 Libra is the critical place. The state of Michigan has the moon there. Mars is there. Some very strong heroes and Darth Vaders. Darth Vader. Hello. Come into me machine. The shadow. America is about to wake up, but Michigan may have a big role to play. Venus is at 9 degrees in the state of Michigan, Capricorn, and that could be the death and rebirth of what love is and how we appreciate our land here. And water. You can't swim in any of the Great Lakes. Mercury, lead, arsenic poisoning, right? They haven't stopped the people contributing to that. It's insanity that we don't have good water. We have all the water and we're poisoning it. And the thing is that nobody can do anything about it because there's greed controlling everything. And they just passed a new law that you can't control anything under your house past 8 feet or something. It used to be that you could have oil there and be a country bumpkin and play guitar. Because, remember that show? The state of Michigan has Sun Neptune at 6 Aquarius where my Venus is, so you can see that I love this place. Atlantic City has interesting aspects where I wondered if they were going to be underwater a little more sometime. Okay, Uranus and Pluto is tangled in difficult aspects as mentioned in the 60s, and there's you might say that a lot of us are facing the residue of the outcome of wrong decisions made in the 60s or wrong dreams and lifestyle decisions, but the product of the 60s is that marijuana is probably going to be legalized. As Tim Leary said when he visited the Mayflower Bookshop, unless you have the books at the Mayflower Bookshop, you won't have maps to the astral plane where you'll be going if you get high. So he thought it was a fool that would get high without having all the Bibles of the world and the esoteric maps of the Tibet Book of the Dead and so on, and Rudolf Steiner and theology. Think about it. And so they should sell you, they should have a Bhagavad Gita as part of the package when you go with your med card. I thought that, remember when the cops in Detroit said enter at your own risk on signs? Because they weren't going to be able to help everybody during that big festival of sports, gladiators. I thought that they should have those signs that says do not enter without a Bhagavad Gita. Because that's what, it's all about the war, you know. And they talk about the war of the higher and lower self. When you don't appeal, when you don't get in touch with the virtue within that you are, your higher self can trip you up, as mentioned in Job and Faust, Goethe's Faust, that I'm that which wills the bad but does the good. Mephistopheles, the Ahriman of the day, or Mark Twain's last book, The Mysterious Stranger. The Satan works at the place that prints the Bibles, and he says that he's there to prevent worse things from happening. That's why he makes bad things happen. People are going to get worse. That's a very interesting philosophical idea that we don't have time to go into what Plato said about that, but we will another time. I'm sure you're all very excited to find out. But I wanted to mention that the last time that Uranus and Pluto aspects hit in this way were 1931 at the depth of the Great Depression. That the Great Depression was associated with this kind of aspect. And that's when unemployment insurance and Social Security and the creation of government jobs helped save the capitalistic system of the time. And you can see how that is an attempt to be made now with the medical thing and so on. But that's a whole other ball of wax, so I can't go into it at the moment. I just want to show you the similarities. In the 1750s, Uranus squared Pluto during the French and Indian Wars, as well as the 7 Years' War, and there's deep esoteric spiritual things that got lost during that 7 Years' War. In 1676, Uranus in Aries, like it is now, squared Pluto in Cancer during Bacon's rebellion in a Virginia colony where some indentured servants were upgraded while African slaves scapegoated and subjected. You might think of what Abraham Lincoln said that his worst fear, worse than the Civil War, was that in the future that we would have voluntary economic servitude or slavery. And that the bankers would rob us in the middle of our sleep. What's new? In case you're wondering and you're confused about the economic systems we're in, if you just think of the feudal state, Think of the game that the Templars modernized and created. Part of my new book on the Holy Grail, by the way, it's coming. I did search for it all over France recently in England. I found something. The Templars created chess in this modern form. If the barbarians are taking you over, the barbarians are taking us over, the barbarians of Wall Street that aren't enlightened yet, or the politicians who are in bed with the corporate thing, same with the military. I'm not saying that's happening, but it could be. But where do you go for peace? Well, back in the day of the Grail and the Templars, you had to go somewhere to be protected if the barbarians are killing everybody and raping your wife and stealing your cows and land. So you would go for where? Think of chess. You go for the king and queen. You work for the president, or the dick that's running things, Dick Cheney or Dick Nixon. Yeah. Then you go to the bishop, the church. You go for their castle of protection. Or where next? The warrior. You'd be a warrior and you'd work for the army and military contracts. They're always making money. You'd invest there. Or where else? You haven't thought it out, my friends. Where's the next place to go? The castle itself. The landowners who influenced the king a lot. Because see, the king, there got to be these landowners. During the Grail times of 11, 1200, don't have time to go into it, but it's thanks to the Grail guys and the troubadours, like myself when I was incarnated there, that you could kiss anybody you wanted. You couldn't kiss, you had to kiss the emperor's feet, his ring, somebody's butt. In some places in the church you still have to do that. And they invented, like, they allowed you to marry whoever you want. So there are certain, you see how, like, you remember how there's 2 bishops and 2 knights and 2 castles? Well, one side let you be free. So you could be a fiefdom, kind of dumb and a fifer. Give me a fife. That. Kind of that. And you could be, like, free. See, they allowed you in the 11, 1200s to own your own land or to, like, get married to whoever you wanted. And some people were still slaves and they told you to marry. So the 13-degree thing is happening really big, and there's going to be a lot of people going crazy and having hysteria. Rudolf Steiner said that the #1 disease at the time would be hysteria, that people would go crazy and get really excited. And, can you give her one of these? If you get rich, you can donate for this later. But give this lady, I'm charging $10 for this, but give her one because she's leaving early, and she's a good astrologer that needs to see if she missed anything.
I may not be here for the question, but is this going to make real chaos for the interim election in 2014? All the aspects that you're...
Well, I think when you see the Pluto, when you see the aspects at next Christmas, there's probably a lot of people that are disgruntled. But when you have really difficult times, like 9/11, for instance, when difficult times happen, police states tend to come into vogue, and yet the Jupiter on the Sun would be a very popular mass vote for the popular vote. Enlightenment isn't necessarily a democracy. Rudolf Steiner said the spiritual sciences is a democracy. And unfortunately, we're living in a state where the corporations are the new feudal lords. That's what I wanted you to hear. The corporations are the new feudal lords, but nobody's there. They can go bankrupt in this corporation and jump, and nobody's responsible, so they don't pay for polluting the Gulf of Mexico or whatever. And so the new feudal lords are they. If you think of chess, we're in the same game. That if you don't work for a big corporation, you're not under one of the castles. And so it's a very difficult thing. The mom and pop stores are all disparate, the bookstores are disparate, and only 2 or 3 corporations own all the media and radio stations and newspapers and all the bookstores and everything, unless they let you be a little guy in the corner. I'm not saying it's bad if we had wonderful feudal lords that would take care of you. Because before I got into esotericism, I was in pre-law at Wayne State, and I have thought about it, friends. But I got out of law because I saw the crookedness, and I could buy people off. And right now, there's unlimited amounts of money that can be given to who's running, and the corporations run everything. And they stopped announcing how much money they print, so that the American public can't know how much money they're printing. There's a very big problem. And I'm still debating within myself that maybe we don't know how to handle freedom, that we need a mom and dad. Maybe we need a dictator. Maybe we need a feudal lord. I myself would like a mom to run things. As Jason recently said in one of his Facebook things, coffee always tastes better when it's at your mom's.
Coffee always tastes better what?
When you're at your mom's.
He said, have a coffee lunch with my mom. It's always better when
Yeah. The astrological chart for July 4th, 1776 has Saturn thrown into the astrological picture. Sun at 13, Cancer squares Saturn at 14 Libra. So Mars will be conjuncting Saturn. The Mars at 13 will be conjuncting Saturn, you see. The United States has Sun square Saturn. So this whole Grand Cross trips in to the United States Saturn. And when Mars hits Saturn, that is either a police day or people who are very authoritative telling us what to do, or people that insult us so we have to invoke our army. It could be very dangerous. The positive side is yoga, meditation, gardening, a lot of hard work. And the first week of January, Mars is in the sky, squares the U.S. Sun, and conjuncts the U.S. Saturn. We're going to see a glimpse of what this could mean. It's probably going to be some, I've been predicting like we're going to have some very heavy moments of snow and storm worldwide, and severe cold weather. We'll see if that ends up happening. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, we're going to have some abnormally warm weather, but the weather, as Rudolf Steiner predicted, is going to extremes more and more, and people go to extremes in their behavior, and you don't know how to stop them to find a balance. People get really upset. They go into hysteria where they make a lot of noise and go crazy, and when it's all said and done, nobody got smarter, nothing better happened. It's a waste of everybody's time. And then people have like premonitions or psychic, they think they know what's right and wrong, but it doesn't help anybody. And so I'm not sure what we can do about that, and it seems like unless we're willing, I think the best thing we can do for ourselves is that if it's not working what we're doing, try something new instead of just sending people to hell in your imagination. That's what the Catholic Church did. That's what all the fundamentalists do. That's what the fundamental Islam does. That's what all the fundamentalists do. Even the fundamentalist materialist will send you to the hell of poverty. So Jupiter's in Cancer, and hopefully this will renew America's interest in loving the Earth. And the Mars in Libra, there's a bunch of interesting things I want to get through. December 7th, Mars entering Libra, where it stays till late July. And this is a very complicated thing. At one moment it's going to oppose Venus in Aries. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And now Venus is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. And they're in mutual, it's really a weird kind of thing. Mars in Libra's ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Aries. It's a mutual reception. Many of you may not know this, and it will come to a shock, some of you already do know, that men are growing breasts now. Many women are cutting theirs off, simultaneous to this time. How do we make that jump? Because I think that what's happening, I've announced this before, men are getting older, and they're becoming wimpy crybabies, complaining about everything. Now, it used to be the guy would work hard, he'd come home, he'd talk to his chick or his woman. Why didn't you do all the things that I asked you to do? She'll cry because you're hurting her feelings. You know what I mean? Now things are reversed. The woman or the chick is coming to the guy demanding shit. C-H-I-T. So I spelled it. And the guy's going, you know, you kind of hurt my feelings, and I'm going to go to my room now. I might think I'm going to have to take my penis elsewhere. I'm just going to put it in a box for a while. I'm very sensitive at this moment. I'm going to cut you off. Not me, I've decided. And so this is what I think is happening. There's stuff in the air and the water. And some guy was explaining to me the other day that men are growing breasts now, and it's very weird. Pardon me? Estrogen.
Too much soul food.
Too much estrogen in the soy.
Soy equals boozy.
Makes women more masculine, maybe. Venus opposes Mars May 11th and 9th. So, you know, you might, ladies, want to, when the guy's asleep, lift up and see. If he's growing breasts, that's right. A lot of men you know are growing huge stomachs, like they're 9 months pregnant, almost 7 months pregnant. These men need women to go down and see if it's still there. They haven't seen it. These guys, they put a beer on it during the Super Bowl. They go, honey, go on and check, see if it's still there. You know, they haven't seen it for a long time. They weren't married, they never know if it's there. These are troubled times, ladies and gentlemen. And it's only going to get worse.
You're breaking down.
Okay, breaking it down. I'm ready. Back. Get back. Okay, I'm back. I'm back now. I don't know who that was.
The beer bellies are getting bigger.
The beer bellies are getting bigger. The macro guys say it's mixing sweets with grains and fish, you know. Or wheat. A lot of people think it's wheat. You know, that if you stop eating wheat and dairy.
Dairy, right.
But I don't know. I mean, I think you know, Buddha belly is really good. It's just that if you feel good, that's the main point. I'm not making fun of anybody. It's really some people. This other lady was telling me how much she loves it, and so I'm growing one myself now because of that. Okay, it's getting pretty bad. Okay, I want to tell you a bunch of things. Okay, Mars in Libra. A lot of people have said Mars in Libra is like Mars is open enemies. Now, the good thing about Mars in Libra is called open enemies. So people are going, you know, I don't like you, man. You know, you're going to get open enemies like creepy guys coming that have a bunch of pimples on their butt and burning your bookstore down in the middle of the night.
How do you know they have pimples on their butt?
I'm psychic.
It's all the money away.
Okay, so they should be here meditating. Let's talk about some people with Mars in Libra. Now this is rare. This is rare, and this is very important for you to hear. Mars in Libra people. Because this is a really critical time, and how can we make Mars, which is going to be on the United States Saturn, which is like really cold gridlock war. Like it could be really bad where there's huge earth changes. God forbid that there's huge flooding and quakes and that the earth goes through a thing where the North Pole changes more. Because the magnetic, I could get into how the earth is going through these really weird changes and other planets are doing weird stuff and to such a degree that you won't sleep tonight. So does the earth know what it's doing? I think it might, because love and the true recognition of what real suffering is that brings us a purification and adjustment to our egotism, that could heal the world and bring about a sense of gravity and rootedness that could I mean, if you could be rooted enough, you could blow in the wind like me. You have to be rooted so that you could go anywhere, do anything, and be a citizen, a new aristocrat for the new world. A butterfly, a dragonfly, an angel. Mars and Libra people who reveal this higher expression of divine love and co-equality. Libra's marriage, partnership, right? And Mars wants to fight and argue and shoot. Woo. Mars is guns and cars and war. People with Mars and Libra that hit the higher octave perhaps. And some of these people hit the lower octave. Nelson Mandela, who has just passed into the spiritual worlds. Abraham Lincoln. I invoke the ghosts of these people to return. The present Dalai Lama. Mars and Libra. John Paul II, the last pope who passed away, who tried to be the middleman and tried to make Rudolf Steiner a saint. Pope Francis, the pope who's here now. The vote's not in whether he's good or bad guy, by the way. He is a Jesuit. Probably appointed by the pope who retired. But this is only my idea. Hey, there's still a chance for him to discover Christianity. And sell some of the bad art at the Vatican and open up a Mayflower bookstore right there to run me out of business. Bill Gates, Nikola Tesla, Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, both Prince William and Duchess Kate. I call you to join us in this new crusade of the knights in shining light of wisdom and truth and loving kindness and compassion. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's magic wand may have fallen down a little bit, but I heard he picked it up. Christopher Columbus, Sigmund Freud, Simon Cowell, Anais Nin. Now notice too that all these people, if they're still alive, will be hit by all these major aspects, by the way, right? And they'll either become aggressive and argumentative and mean, or they'll fight for spiritual truth. J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter fame, John Lennon, Elvis. I call both of them to meet me tonight. I'm not going to talk about what we're going to talk about, but okay. Freddie Mercury, Eminem, Slash, Sinead O'Connor, Justin Timberlake, Nicole Kidman, Whitney Houston, Jessica Biel, Jessica Simpson, Pamela Anderson, Peter Gabriel. All these people could die in the next 3 years, or they'll be born again at a whole new level. Either they're going to turn really old, cranky ladies if they're men, or they can become aggressive, tyrant dicks if they're women. It's growing! Oh. That's what women will say.
Cut all their hair off.
They cut all their hair off.
She cut all their hair off.
Yeah, they're becoming guys. They're growing. No breasts. They're turning into dicks. Nixons. Yeah. Cat Stevens, Whitney Houston. Okay, I mentioned those. All these are incredibly strong yet oversensitive in some ways, both inner and outer personas. They have an inner and outer life of some magnitude. Mars in Libra doesn't know how to be aggressive without it being a big scene or inwardly messy and oversensitive. And Mars in Libra for the next 8 months or so. And all of us are going to have Mars in Libra somewhere. Find out what house it's in. Right? Mine's in the house of kids and lovers. Somehow those are connected in the fifth house. I don't know how that works. Where it stopped, right? So we may... Mars in Libra time. When Nixon resigned, Mars 13 Libra. President Obama has very difficult aspects. If I was him, I would resign. Otherwise, he's heading for heroism of an unusual sort. The assassination of assassination of President Kennedy. Mars at 9 degrees Libra, really quickly going to 13. The moon landing, Mars at 11 Libra, and Jupiter at 19 Aquarius, where we're squaring. So in other words, the moon landing, China is now going to the moon right at the time that Mars is returning to its place where it was when we were there. And there are many indications, if you read the UFO books, that we might have UFOs and we're already on Mars. And so the moon could have a dangerous moment. Now, if the moon were to be blown up, once we were with Russia, and they claimed there was some kind of Cold War thing where somebody claimed they were going to blow it up. And who knows what would happen if that took place. But Neptune will conjunct there is a danger of that happening, and that Neptune's going to be conjuncting a certain planet at that time of the moon landing. And so the moon could also become a Walt Disney base for traveling further out. I mean, God only knows. But we're about to take a huge step. I'm predicting like a huge advancement in the automobile, the engine, and flying machines, and science of electricity that will hopefully bring us a much cheaper resources so we can get off fossil fuel. That would be a big turning point if we could stop splitting the atom and not depending on fossil fuel. Otherwise, it's a pretty sure sign we're heading into deeper catastrophic times. I searched for important people that would have something at 13 Libra or 13 cardinal sign, and I did find one. Somebody who's been in the news recently. Somebody who's becoming very aggressive and returning to a dictatorship and getting rid of the possibility of democracy. Who would that be? Mr. Putin of Russia has his natal sun at 13 degrees Libra. While transiting Mars in April will trigger the Grand Cross for him, but it's coming up now at the turn of the year. The action starts at the end of December into January for Mars' first pass conjuncting Mr. Putin's sun. Fireworks and aggressive assertive actions, control are already in the works. With Jupiter conjunct his Uranus now in December, he does maintain his home popularity. He arrests and gets rid of anybody that's in the way. And he just announced recently that there's no more free news. They're controlling all the newspapers in Russia. Where Saturn, America doesn't really have a free press anymore itself. But England and America are the last pretense of freedom. We have to have a public debate whether we really want freedom or just some of us will be in the know. And the rest of us will be sheep, at best. Or little cows ready to be slaughtered at worst. Or workhorses. With Saturn opposed to natal Jupiter mid-December, he is continuing to deal with external forces wanting to shrink or dissipate his power. April will tell the story for his future when the Grand Cross hits his sun. For your notes, please note that at the burning of the stake of Joan of Arc, Mars was in Libra, opposing Uranus in Aries, and squaring by sign Saturn and Moon in Capricorn and Pluto in Cancer. Same kind of aspects, more or less, as the burning of Joan of Arc. So when they come for me, I'm going to go, take him! Take him! Oh no, I won't. Didn't even see me point at it, that's good. They won't know who to take. The Korean War, Mars is in Libra. Second World War, Mars is in Libra. The First World War, Mars is in Virgo going into Libra. Stock market crash, Mars in Virgo going into Libra, but the Moon and Saturn were already in Libra. Libra can be a very beautiful place, but it's very hard to have partnerships. Very hard. When you're in business or wherever you are. It works at first, but we don't know how to be equal in spiritual potential. I guess when you're equal in spiritual potential, the outer isn't as important. Cancer rules the end of life, and it rules Southwest America. And so this whole build-up, that's one of the areas that's been having a lot of flooding in South, or more troubles in Southwest America. And they might get hit with either quake or storm. We'll see what happens. A lot of people come to power in a negative way. One with Jupiter in Cancer, once established with home and/or right mate, will go anywhere for new powers to work out.